Ah, all right, here we go. Getting ready to try to hear something that a part of us doesn't want to hear. But we're gonna hear it anyways. Course in Miracles here on Facebook Live. I want to welcome you. I'm Earl Purdy, and I want to welcome you to A Course in Miracles. And the Course in Miracles means a course in right thinking. A course in the way that you could think that would give you peace and that would give you joy and that would give you happiness. I'm going to give you the recipe for peace. I'm going to give you the recipe for happiness through the Course in Miracles, but just like any recipe, it's not going to work unless you use it, okay? There's no amount of classes and workshops and tapes and videos that you can watch that are going to take the place of actually doing what you're being asked to do. I talked to many Course in Miracles students, and somehow or another our mind is oriented toward believing that if we just hear something, it's the same as us doing it. And that's not true. So it's when we actually do the recipe that we actually get the cake. And so I want to show you the recipe to the cake of peace. And the reason why I enjoy doing it with people is because it's easier to remember if you have other people around you just trying to remember the same thing. So I want to thank you for tuning in. And I like to always start out with our brother John Christmas giving us one of the workbook lessons from A Course in Miracles at johnChristmas.com. That's called I'm Not a Victim of the World I See. I am not a victim of the world I see. You are not a victim of the world you see. You are not a victim of the world you see. That's a very interesting way to put it. So let's use this opportunity for everybody to come in and to allow us to hear what it is that the Course in Miracles is telling us right now. Here we go. I'm not a victim of the world I see. Let me turn the volume up a little bit.
Circumstance at all, I'm not a victim of the world I see.
Not a victim of the world I see.
Cause what's happening now is what I've done to me. I'm not a victim of the future, not a victim of the past, not a victim of anything that really doesn't last. I'm not a victim of the world I see. Cause what's happening now is what I've done to me.
What's happened just happened is what I did to me.
I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim, no, of the world I see.
You're not a victim of the world you see. Guess what?
I'm not a victim of the North. I'm not a victim of the South. Not a victim of anything that comes out my mouth. I'm not a victim, oh no, of the world I see. Cause what's happening now is what I've done to me.
That includes the good stuff.
I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim.
I'm not a victim
of the world I see. I'm not a victim, no. I see.
Oh no. I'm so glad I got my road crew. It's so easy to do this stuff. Remember this. You don't have to believe what I'm about to say. You don't have to accept what I'm about to say. You don't have to welcome what I'm about to say. You can resist what I'm about to say. Some of it you might resist. Some of it you might find hard to believe. Some of it you might find hard to believe. Some of it you might not want to do. Some of it you might not want to do. Some of it you might not want to do. Some of it you might not want to do. Some of it you might not want to do. Some of it you might resist. Some of the ideas you will find hard to believe, and others will seem to be quite startling. You're not being asked to judge the ideas at all. Their use will give the ideas meaning to you, and using the ideas will show you that the ideas are true. That is the truth. I'd like for you, if you have the books, those of you in person and those of you online, if you have the book, I am really wanting to continue to teach A Course in Miracles. I'm not really that into lecturing. I don't believe lecturing really changes that much about people at all, because most of the time when people listen to a lecture, they forget it. If we be honest with ourselves. We listen to lectures and we walk right out, and 15 minutes later, unless you hear something just friggin' extraordinary, in most cases, things that we don't get invested in ourselves, we do not remember. Unless we get invested and we give it some attention and we give it some study. And so what I want to cover, first of all, is the introduction to the workbook, which is the introduction to what the whole purpose of the Course in Miracles is and what you're studying the Course in Miracles for. Because I think when you get clear about why you're even focusing in on it and what it's trying to achieve and the easiest way to achieve it, don't you think that would be the best way to handle it? Right. So if you have the Course in Miracles book, the blue book, the Foundation for Inner Peace version for sure, I want you to turn to page 1. Okay? And what it's explaining is how to study the Course in Miracles and what the purpose of the Course in Miracles is. Because without understanding the purpose, we won't study the book. A good teacher is a good motivator. It is important to do your own study and to do your own work. And so I'm here to help those especially who want to get support in their study of the Course in Miracles and who want to take advantage of 4 decades of me studying and teaching it to save some time. So the Course in Miracles starts out, do you know a theoretical foundation such as the text provides is necessary? So what is the text is? What is the text? Well, he says the text is a framework to make the exercises in this workbook meaningful. So you need to know why you're doing it if you're going to make the exercises in the workbook meaningful. And I'm going to repeat this because I see myself as the divine repetition teacher. It's doing the workbook and applying the workbook that you will get the miracles of perception that the Course in Miracles is promising. It's through doing the workbook. It's through doing the exercises. It's through doing the workbook. It's through doing the workbook. It's through doing the workbook. It's through doing the workbook that you'll experience the change of mind that the Course in Miracles is promising. Did I just say it's through doing the workbook, it's through doing the workbook, it's through doing the workbook and the Course in Miracles that you will be able to accomplish what the Course in Miracles is saying. So the purpose of the workbook is to allow you to practice this in your everyday life so that you can have the miracles of perception that the Course in Miracles is talking about. Because if you don't believe something is going to give you what you want, there's a tendency not to really focus any attention on it. If you don't think the Course in Miracles is going to help you achieve the peace that you're looking for, it will not be the first book that you go to when you're feeling conflict. You're going to go to what you really believe handles your conflict when you're in conflict. So tell me what you do when you're upset or you're afraid. Do you go to the Course or not? Yes. Only you can answer that. And you can say you do, but you really know whether or not you picked up that book and you actually started trying to apply any of the workbook lessons. Because there's a tendency to say yes, because I think of the Course in Miracles when I'm upset. That is not what I'm talking about. Saying it's the Holy Spirit, I'm going to give it to the Holy Spirit, and saying it's my ego. That is not meaning that you are studying and applying the principles of the Course in Miracles. So the Course in Miracles is saying it's doing the exercises that make the goal of the Course possible. What is it that makes the goal of the Course possible? He says doing the exercises make the goal of the Course possible. Doing the exercises make the goal of the Course possible. Doing the exercises make the goal of the Course possible. Did I say doing the exercises make the goal of the Course possible? Yeah. Doing the exercises makes the goal of the Course possible. Okay, all right, I hear you on that, Holy Spirit. What is it that an untrained man can do and accomplish? Nothing. An untrained man can accomplish nothing. So if you don't train your mind to think along the lines that the Course is teaching, then you're not going to accomplish anything in terms of the Course in Miracles in the way that it's teaching you. I'm saying this for myself. I'm not jumping, I'm not judging, I'm not criticizing, I'm not condemning. I'm doing what it says do. Every now and then you need to ask yourself, why am I even doing this? What is my purpose in even doing this? Because if I don't think it's going to help me get what I want, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to. See, when my ego is jamming me up, or things in the world are frightening me, or things that are happening that are making me unhappy, I race to the Course in Miracles as quick as I can, because I don't want to hear my ego's stupid thoughts that's trying to make me feel more and more afraid and more negative. So I know that I'm either going to listen to my right voice or I'm going to listen to the wrong voice. How do I know when I'm listening to the wrong voice? I'm going deeper into my fear, conflict, and depression. So don't you dare say you know the Course and you practice the Course and you're applying the Course and you're depressed and you're fearful and you're unhappy and you're sick and you're lacking and you think something is wrong in your experience. That works if it's part of what the workbook lesson tells you to think about, but it also gives you an answer to what it's telling you to think about. There are many lessons that he tells you to search your mind for the things that's upsetting you, but he also says, and then I want you to tell yourself, I'm never upset for the reason I think, or whatever it is that it's telling you. So what I'm looking for and what I want to do in the next phase of my teaching ministry is to especially work with people and teach people who are studying the Course, reading the Course, trying to do the Course. They are seeing it as their path and they're willing to invest some energy and time into it, and they want to work with a teacher who is obsessed with it, has been doing it for decades and have been working with people for decades. And people who just like to watch, you are welcome. And I'm glad that you are watching. But I'm primarily asking for people who want to master this, so that when you watch my class or when you're doing a live presentation, have your book with you. Have your book with you. Because one of the biggest excuses that I hear from people when it comes to the Course in Miracles is that it's hard to read. So they don't read it. And so if you don't know anything about baking a cake and you get a recipe that you won't read, how successful will you be at baking the cake? You won't be successful at baking the cake. So the Course in Miracles is saying to us, if your mind is untrained, Earl, if your mind is untrained, it can accomplish nothing. So it is the purpose of the workbook. What is the purpose of the Course? What is the purpose of A Course in Miracles? What is the purpose of the workbook? To train your mind. Okay, what is the purpose of the doing the lessons? To train your mind. Okay, to do what? Think along the lines the text sets forth. So the text is setting forth that you are totally innocent. It wants to get rid of your blocks to love. The text sets forth that forgiveness is the key to happiness, and forgiveness is changing your perception. Forgiveness is not trying to overlook what you think someone did to you. Forgiveness is not trying to overlook what you think someone did to wrong you. That is not the Course in Miracles forgiveness. The Course in Miracles forgiveness is correct perception, true perception, being willing to look at things a new way that could give you more peace so that you could hear your guidance. So forgiveness is, if you're here today because you have a willingness to look at things another way, or you have a willingness to look at this person another way, or you have a willingness to look at this circumstance another way, then you are moving in the direction of practicing forgiveness. Forgiveness is another way of looking at things. When you say, I am determined to see this person differently, that is the same as saying, I am willing to forgive this person. It is not, I repeat, it is not saying that I'm asking you to forgive the person who tried to mug you one night. That you trying to pretend it didn't happen, or that it didn't bother you, or you're going to try to overlook it. What I'm saying is forgiveness would be you want to see that correctly, see it differently, see it another way that frees you. And every one of us, we know where we have those people and situations in our life right now that when we think of those situations or those people, it makes us feel heavier. It's not something that turns us on. It's something that upsets us. So please don't pretend that you have nothing to forgive and you have nothing to see differently and nobody to see differently. Because if you do that, you're going to meet everything you're in denial about in your physical world. Your physical world is showing you what you are thinking that you're not owning up to thinking, according to the Course. So when I deny that I have anger and pretend I just feel peace all the time, then I'm surrounded by angry people who are mad about something all the time. And I'm around people who are complaining all the time. Then I get a chance to go, well, I don't have those kind of thoughts. Yes, you do. You're looking at them. They are all around you. Your physical world is your thoughts. It is a reflection of your thoughts, feelings, emotions, and beliefs, your perceptions are. So the Course in Miracles is not a really good teaching for people who want to pretend they're nice. It's for those people who know sometimes they are anything but nice. And they feel anything but nice, and sometimes they do. It's for people out there who sometimes feel good and sometimes feel bad. Sometimes feel angry and sometimes feel peaceful. Anybody in here like that? Okay. All right. Me too. Me too. There's a lot of people that's watching this like that. You know. One of the comments that I get the most from people is that even though sometimes it used to drive their ego crazy, they love the fact that I'll go slow and repeat things, and repeat things, and repeat things, and that I don't do an analyzation Course in Miracles class, where we sit around and everybody asks questions and we analyze and everybody gives their interpretation about what they think the Course is saying, who, by the way, in most cases haven't read it. That's what's really funny about it. So what is it that you are trying to do? You're trying to train your mind so that you can think the way that the Course is teaching you to think toward peace. Then it says the exercises are what? Very simple, very simple, very simple. So what is that? What is the characteristic of a very simple exercise? Well, the Course in Miracles reads like you don't understand anything that it's saying. So if you keep on reading, it always explains what it says in the next sentence or two. That's why I don't spend time analyzing the Course. Why should you analyze something that he's already told you what the answer is? Okay, let me give you an example. It says the exercises are very simple. What does that mean? They don't require a great deal of time. What else is a characteristic of a simple exercise? He says, I love it. He says it doesn't take a great deal of time. Okay? It doesn't matter where you do it. It doesn't matter where you do these exercises. It doesn't matter where you do the Course in Miracles thinking. And what could be simpler than they need no preparation? Okay? So if something is going to be simple, what is the characteristic of it? It doesn't require a great deal of time. It doesn't matter where you do it, and it doesn't need any preparation. And the training period is 1 year. The training period is 1 year. The training period is what? 1 year. Now, I taught the course for many years, right? When I first started teaching the course, the internet wasn't really happening. Cell phones weren't really happening. 10-second, 12-second videos and 1 minute, 30-second videos weren't happening. So people actually were accustomed to giving something their attention more than 10 or 12 seconds. Now, if people don't get a class that lasts almost an hour, it severely challenges them because they're looking for everything to be 5 minutes or 10 minutes. I ain't interested in teaching you.
Thank you.
Okay? If you can't focus on your spiritual path longer than 10 seconds or 10 minutes, then I'm not your man. I'm not your teacher. If that's the most attention you can give to something, if you can't pay attention to something more than 5 minutes, you're on the wrong path. You need to get on another path. You need to get on a path that enthuses you, inspires you, and moves you. And when you hear it, you want to hear more of it. And even if it challenges you, you keep on doing it anyway. Right? That's how you know you're on your path. You're excited. It turns you on to do it. You're glad to move in the direction into it. If you approach the Course in Miracles like you're going to the dentist, then it might not be your path. Oh my God, I know I got to do the course. I know I ought to be doing it. You might not be on your path. Okay? It doesn't, and what's so good about our God, what's so great about our Creator, is that our Creator has a gazillion different ways of you getting to the truth. So if it's not the course, it is some other way that will move you. So the Course in Miracles is not the only path to peace. The Course in Miracles is not the only path to God. The Course in Miracles is not the only path to God. The Course in Miracles is not for everyone. 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 Okay? You need to recognize that. Then he goes on to say, the exercises are numbered from 1 to 365. This is kind of funny. The exercises are numbered from 1 to 365. So what is it I want you to do? Don't undertake to do more than one set of exercises a day. Don't you see the humor of it? Most people don't do any exercises. And so it's saying, oh, now don't do more than one. It's like, you'd be doing good to do one. So, then it tells you, well, what I'm going to do, I want you to know that this workbook is divided. What is it divided into? 2 main sections. The workbook is divided into 2 main sections. But let me add something else to that. The Course in Miracles does it as if it's 2 sections, the whole entire book when you're reading it. First of all, you'll notice if you're a true student of the Course that he tells you exactly what the ego and the fearful, angry, guilty part of your mind is going to do. And then right after that, every single time, the Course will turn around and say, and this is what your right mind, your loving mind, and your spiritual mind will do. So he tells you, this is the way your wrong mindedness is going to operate, and this is the way your right mind. It's 2 parts. So it says the first part of the workbook deals with what does it deal with? He says, undoing the way you see right now. So the first part of the workbook is undoing the way that you see things that's causing you fear, anger, guilt, grievances, attack, lack, jealousy, all of those things the Course calls fear. The first half of the workbook is undoing the way you already think. The first part of the Course, the first part of the workbook is why you want to do it is because if you're feeling fearful, anxious, afraid, in conflict, sick, or perceiving yourself in lack, then the first part of the workbook, the first 200 or so lessons are all about undoing the way that you're already seeing things that's causing you fear. So that's why doing the workbook lessons are so important, is because if you're already upset, if you're already unhappy, if you're already concerned, if you're already worried, then you want to undo that way of looking at things. That's why the workbook is so important in doing that. Then it tells us the second part of the workbook, which starts at around 221. The course says the second part of the workbook deals with the acquisition of true perception. So the first part is undoing the way you see things. The second part is acquiring the new perception that you should be using if you want to have peace, if you want to have spirit operating in your life. The first part of the workbook is undoing the way the world has taught you to think and the way that ego has taught you to think. And the second part of the workbook is acquiring the way that the Holy Spirit wants you to look at it, the way that love wants you to look at it, the way that truth wants you to look at it. Everybody clear about that? Okay, so when you, like for instance, lesson number 1 is nothing I see means anything. Okay? So that's part of undoing the way you see right now. Because the way you see right now, in most cases, everything means something. Everything means something. So he starts out by saying nothing I see means anything. And then the second lesson is I give everything I see all the meaning that it has for me. Right? So first, I need to understand that nothing I see means anything until I give it a meaning. Nothing I see or experience, nothing you see, nothing you experience, nothing you feel means anything until you give it a meaning. Do you hear me? So if you're going to undo the way you see things, you need to understand that the reason why you're upset is because of the meaning that you're giving to the thing you're upset about. In 43 years, I haven't met anybody that disagreed with that. And then 5 minutes later, they are right back to being upset about something again. Okay, because that quick, they think they're upset because their kid came home at 8 o'clock and they told them to come home at 5 o'clock. And they don't know that they're upset because of the meaning that they gave their kid coming home at 8 o'clock instead of 5 o'clock. You could have just as easily said, it doesn't mean anything to me if my kid comes home at 8 o'clock, and you wouldn't have gotten upset about it. So it's always the meaning that's upsetting you. It's always the meaning that's upsetting you. It's always the meaning that's upsetting you. You could be sick. You could be stone broke. You could be by yourself and never had a relationship in 30 years and be the most peaceful person on earth. It's because you wouldn't give it a meaning that something's wrong with you because you don't have a lover and a mate and a partner. Or you could give it no meaning that you don't own your own company and have $1 million income. Nothing that's happening to you at all would be bothering you except for the meaning that you're giving it. Okay, so did me telling you that keep you from being upset anymore today? No. Right. Because what? I gave you the recipe. Okay, so what would be acting out the recipe? It would be doing what he said do. Look at everything that you're looking at and go, I'm giving that chair all the meaning that it has to me. I'm giving my mama all the meaning that she has for me. I'm giving my job all the meaning. And if you say that enough times, you go, wait a minute, I'm the one that's giving this the meaning. So I'm the one that's making me upset by the meaning. But that's going to happen after you repeat it over and over and over and over and over every time. Oh, I'm the one that's giving it the meaning. That's what's upsetting me right now. I'm giving this illness the meaning. That's what's upsetting me right now. I'm giving my bank account the meaning that I'm giving it. That's why my bank account. There are some people, one of the things my friends have told me a lot of times when they go to so-called third world countries where people are very poor and they don't have nothing, 90% of them will tell me they are much happier than any American that they've ever seen. When I was a kid, I didn't know I was poor. Everybody around me was the same level of economic development as me. Their house leaned to the side like mine did, right? So I wasn't aware that I was poor until I would compare myself to what I saw on TV and what other people had. So that proved to me that my happiness had to do with the way I was looking at my childhood and the way that I was looking at that broom that I was pretending was a horse and that rope that I was pretending was a train. And every day at 5 o'clock, my train was on time. I took that rope and I pulled it around the whole yard. And then I brought it back to where it started, and I used Coke bottles as the signals that flashed. All that was going on in my mind. And that was a lot of fun, and it's a lot cheaper than a $400 video game. That you're still not happy, right? My point is, it was the meaning that I was giving my toys that gave it all the meaning. That's what determines my feeling. And just because we are adults, that does not mean that we're not doing the exact same thing. You know, I'm only going to be happy if I get a Corvette. It's the same thing. I'm giving it a meaning, and I'm letting that meaning determine whether or not. If I judge my success as a teacher by how many people came to my class, I would stop. But it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with me accepting from A Course in Miracles that everybody that comes is sent. And sometimes Spirit's going to send one person, and sometimes Spirit sends 100 people or 200 people. You understand what I'm saying? So if you're judging yourself by the world's values, you're going to always come up short. Because the world's values is power, fame, money, and physical pleasure. So you're not successful in the world unless you got a whole lot of material things. Then you're successful. You know, they say the person is worth $1 billion. The person is worth $200 million. As if our value is at any level has anything to do with what we have financially and materially. So again, I'm giving it the meaning. So the Course is saying, what I want to do is I want to undo that way of you looking at things so that it can give you more peace. And that's what it says here. Each day's exercise, he says, with the exception of the review periods, each day's exercises are planned around one central idea, which is stated first. Like the example I just gave you. Exercise 2 was what? I give everything I see all the meaning that it has for me. So that's the central idea. So that whole day would be built around you bringing everything that you experienced that day back to that idea of you giving it all the meaning that it has for you. That becomes what he says, what? The one central idea that is stated first. So I want you to remember what class that I'm doing with you so that you can go back by this date, September 17th, 2023, so that you can allow yourself to remember why you're doing this and the way that it's approaching you. Do you understand where I'm going over this? It's so that we'll understand how the Course says do the Course. Not the way we think we should do the Course. And I would like to give a shout out to those of you who just do the thing of just opening the book up anywhere, and anywhere it opens up, you think that's where you need to read. That is not what the Course in Miracles teaches. It flat out says don't do it that way. Because you're gonna bop around and open it up somewhere and scare the hell out of yourself. Because you're gonna read something that you are not ready for because you haven't heard what came before it. It is not true that you can open that book up anywhere, and wherever you open up is where you need to be reading it. Why am I saying that? Because the book says it. The Course says it. It's not Earl saying it. It says you need the earlier sections of the book, and you need to study the earlier sections carefully. He says, because unless you do, when you get into the latter part of the material, he says it will be distressing and probably very frightening unless you have an opportunity to build up to that point. So I'm advising you, those who think that that's studying the Course, that is not studying according to the Course. Okay? But sometimes people think, I'm saying this. And it's like, no, I'm just a messenger. Then it says, each day's exercises are planned around one central idea, which is stated first. And this is followed by what? A description of the specific procedures. What? I'm going to give you the main idea that I want you to focus on all day. And then I'm going to give you the specific procedure you need to use with this idea. I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to do with this idea. He says that's the specific procedure by which the idea for today is to be applied. So what does that mean? Reading the title of the workbook lesson is not the same as doing the workbook lesson. Reading the title of the workbook lesson is not the same as doing the workbook lesson. Reading the title of the workbook lesson is not the same as doing the workbook lesson. Reading the title of the workbook lesson is not the same as doing the workbook lesson. Saying the title of the workbook lesson is not the same as doing the workbook lesson. What did I say? Saying the title of the workbook lesson is not the same as doing the workbook lesson. Many times people say, well, I did the workbook lesson. No, you read the title of the workbook lesson probably every day for a year. But did you do the 5 minutes at the top of the hour that it suggested? Or when it said 6 times a day, take 2 minutes to focus in on it, did you do that? Every time you were angry and upset with somebody, did you tell yourself, there's nothing that my holiness cannot do or my innocence cannot do in this situation? Did you actually apply what the workbook lesson said, or did you just for a year read it? Get up in the morning and read it. You follow me? Mm-hmm. Because if you are, you're probably a person that's saying the course isn't working and you're not getting the result like you should. So I'm not judging you. I'm not condemning you. I'm just telling you what it is that you may be doing that's keeping you from having the happiness and the peace that the Course in Miracles promises. I just experienced a miracle in my own experience that I have no slightest desire to take any credit for whatsoever, because the Course says you will start to have things happen to you if you will do what I'm telling you. That's so incredible, you can't even begin to pretend it was you. I say that again. You're going to have things happen to you that you can't take credit for because you know it's more than you could have imagined or created for yourself. Do not believe what anybody says that can or cannot happen because man or woman says it can or cannot happen. God's laws transcend the laws of time and space and all the rules and laws that we've learned as human beings. A miracle, the laws of love transcend every law of this world. So I don't care what anybody tells you, you can have a miracle, and you can have a miracle of healing in any situation that you're in. Even if the world tells you there's no cure, there's no way you can have that happen the way it is possible for you to have a date. Okay, that's a bit much. I went too far there. Yeah. It's easier to part the Red Sea than for me to have a good relationship. So you just, Earl, you had me until you said that. Do you know the Course in Miracles teaches that we use our special relationships as the chief weapon to keep us from being happy, when they're actually supposed to be what you use to speed you along? It says that when people are really having a peaceful time, what they do is they go look for a relationship. You've been having too much peace for so long, and so you go try to get a relationship, because then you're entering the arena of somebody saying you need to be different and you need to act out their script in order for them to be happy. So y'all spend all the time trying to change each other. But the Course says you don't have to get rid of a special relationship. Jesus says in the Course in Miracles, all I want to do is remove all the fear and conflict that you'll let me remove from it. And then your relationship could actually speed you in your awakening. So I'm not anti-special relationship. He said, I'm just anti all the crazy relationships y'all come up with. That's my paraphrase. And I deserve the right after 40 years. I will be. Okay. The Earl Purdy version of the Course would definitely be R and X-rated. And I used to do those kind of classes back in Memphis. I would go, for those of you all who will not be busted, explode because you hear a curse word, I'm going to have a R-rated Course in Miracles class where we can just talk like people talk and not like we try to talk when we're spiritual. You know, because a lot of times I have people I work with and they go, say, is it okay if I just call? Hey, you can call them anything you want to. And when you forget, maybe I can give you a few suggestions. Because I know on the other side of that anger and fear and their need to express it just the way that they express it is the healing that they're looking for. Yeah. It's on the other side of them not trying to pretend they're spiritual and pretend like they're not mad or that they don't feel hatred or anger. Okay? So I give them and encourage them to feel innocent about expressing themselves, because there's no curse word that they're going to say that the people who are getting offended by it is not giving it what? The meaning they give to it. And it's the meaning they give to the word that's upsetting them, is not the word. It's right. Well, you just think about it. When I grew up, there was nothing worse that you could hear than the N word. You being called the N word. That was like the ultimate holy grail of you have just messed up. if you do that. I saw people die because of it. Now, every friggin' rap song and everything I see, I'm hearing it every movie. It is so weird to be in a movie and you're the only black body. You have the only black body in the movie. It's like in Colorado, that's pretty common. And then everybody around you is in white bodies, and you're watching a preview of an upcoming movie that's got people of color in it, and you're hearing them say N-words to themselves over and 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 over, and you're sitting there. It's weird because of what? The meaning I give to it. Doesn't really mean anything, but in terms of how I was programmed growing up, then I still get an every time I hear it. They don't think it's anything. I've heard people in white bodies calling each other that. Because to them, it's just a word. It's not necessarily a word that has to do with a race per se. The younger people, So we're in a place now. My point in saying that is it goes right back to what we're saying. It comes down to the meaning that you're giving it, and that your upset is coming from the meaning that you're giving it, not the situation. You do not have to be unhappy because you can't pay your bills. And you don't have to be necessarily happy because you can. But you can be happy because you can, and you can be unhappy because you can't. I've met rich people who were miserable, and I've met rich people who were happy. And I've met poor people who were miserable, and I've met poor people who were happy. Because sometimes people who are poor say about people who are rich, well, they might be rich, but they're not really happy. Well, some of them really are. They're really kicking it up. So don't, it's just making you feel better because you're not. What's really interesting is that in a Judeo-Christian culture like we have, that's very materialistic, the symbol of our spiritual leader, Jesus, comes in on a donkey, born in a manger, don't have nothing materially. Y'all notice that? Jesus he's not like walking down the street with jewels on, right? In a materialistic culture. And then in India, where they do have more people who can sometimes appear to have very little of material means, when you see the pictures of their deities, what have you noticed about them? They're drenched in jewels. Oh, yeah. They're drenched in gold. They're drenched in diamonds. I just thought that's interesting, that the most materialistic country has the most non-materialistic images of somebody we should be worshiping. And then the ones that seem to have less material are the ones who have gods that are all about the jewels. Yeah. It's just an observation. Again, we write back to meaning, right? We write back to meaning. So the Course in Miracles says that the purpose of the workbook is to train your mind how? In a systematic way. To what? A different perception of the world, right? So you're being trained to have a different perception of everyone and everything in the world. Now, that's what forgiveness is. Forgiveness is you having a different perception of everything and everyone in the world. So I needed a different perception of my father because it looked like my father was not doing the things I thought a father should do based on the meanings I had been given about what a father should do, right? So what am I forgiving my father for? For not fulfilling the meaning that I've given to what I thought he should have done as a father. That's what I'm forgiving. He didn't do anything except live his life through his lessons and the things he had to learn on his spiritual path as a human being, just like I am. But the truth is, I'm forgiving him for not acting out my script, my meanings, and the things that I have decided he should do. So forgiveness really is an internal matter. It doesn't have anything to do. I can't talk to my father now. I can, but not in the physical level. So if I said that me forgiving my father was dependent on me having to have a conversation with him, I could never forgive him. So if you believe that to forgive someone, you got to go out to lunch with them afterwards, you made a mistake. You don't. To forgive someone doesn't mean you got to hang out with them, be their friend, or do anything. It just means you're no longer wishing them any ill will. You're looking at it another way that gives you peace. And if you're really smart, you're looking at whatever you think they did as a call for love, a call for help, a call for healing. So then he says, the exercises are planned to help you do what? Generalize the lessons. What does that mean? You don't ever have to figure out what the Course in Miracles means. What does it say in the next part of the sentence? So that you will understand that each of the lessons is equally applicable to everyone and everything. So every one of these lessons apply to everyone, and anything that's the truth applies to everyone, and anything that's really the truth applies to everything. So a love that excludes anybody is not a real love. A love that excludes anybody is not a real love. A love that excludes anybody is not a real love. A love that you only have is not a real love. A love that you are the only one that you have that love is not a real love, because whatever is true includes everybody, and whatever is true applies to everybody. So what does that mean? Let's use our lesson for an example. I give everything I see all the meaning it has for me. You give everything you see all the meaning it has for you. You see what I'm saying? If it's the truth for everyone. So anything that's just yours is ultimately not real. Anything that just belongs to you and nobody else ultimately is not real based on the truth, because the truth applies to everyone and everything equally. You mean if he just loves me, he doesn't really know what love is? Exactly. You mean if she just loves me, she don't really know what love really is? Exactly. Real love is inclusive. Real love, nobody's left out. That's how we want to believe that God loves us. We want to believe our Creator loves each one of us equally, those who believe in the Creator at all, right? You count on, if God answers your prayer, it's a possibility God would answer mine. That if you are loved by God, then I could be loved. So real love always includes everybody. Specialness is just for certain people. So what we call love is specialness. What we call love is specialness. What we call love is specialness, and that's why it doesn't last. Because specialness is something you give to people, and can it be something you take away? Yes. All of us have had the experience of someone saying they loved us, and that same person who was saying they loved us last week is saying they hate us now. So that was not real love from the very beginning. It was specialness. So the Course in Miracles says, transfer of training in true perception doesn't proceed as does transfer of training of the world. Then the mind goes, what do you mean by that? Well, if true perception has been achieved in connection with any person, if you're seeing any person truly, if you're seeing any situation truly, if you're seeing any event truly, then total transfer to everyone and everything is certain. So if I just see one of you all correctly, I can transfer that to everybody else. If what you're doing today is a call for love, you got upset and you were angry, and I saw that as a call for love, then if you get upset and angry, I said it's a call for love, and if you get upset and angry, it's a call for love, and if you get upset, you see what I'm saying? If I can see one person correctly according to what this is teaching me, then it means that it applies to everybody. We don't want it to apply to a rapist. We don't want it to apply to a bank robber. We don't want it to apply to Putin. You see what I'm saying? We single out who we think that shouldn't apply to. The truth would say that person is also calling for help. That person needs help. That person has real issues that really need to be looked at another way. They are calling for help just as anybody else is calling for help. So if I see one person correctly, then I could see all of you correctly. But it doesn't mean I necessarily feel good about it. Okay? Then he goes, on the other hand, what does he say? One exception held apart from true perception makes its accomplishments anywhere impossible. So if I say what she does is a call for love, but what you do is not a call for love, then I've just blown the whole thing, because what is he trying to teach me? It's trying to teach me to apply the truth to everyone. So if I want to leave somebody out, then I'm blowing the whole purpose. It's not saying you already feel this way, because if you already felt peace about everything, you wouldn't have any need to be doing the Course in Miracles or any truth teaching to begin with. So nobody's expecting you to already be able to forgive somebody just because it says you should forgive. Nobody's saying to you that you should feel all right about calling what everybody do a call for love right up just because you're learning that one day you will. I'm going to say that again, because that's another mistake that I've noticed over the years that students make with the Course. They think just because they hear they should be more forgiving, that means that they should be able to do that today. No, what the Course is teaching you is that even though you can't do it today, the Spirit is seeing that as your call for love. And Spirit will help you. And Spirit will be there for you. Because your being unforgiving is your call for help. Is your call for love. Wow. Then he goes, the only general rules to be observed throughout then are, here are the general rules, which y'all hear every week, right? First, that the exercises should be practiced with great specificity as will be directed. What does that mean? He tells you to think of specific things that you are upset about or concerned about. He doesn't go, just think about you like to have world peace. No, I want to have peace with my brother who we haven't spoken 10 years. Make it specific. Stop doing the general stuff. You know, I specifically I'm having a financial issue in my perception right now. So I want to use that specifically. I have a grievance with my mother right now. I want to use that specific. I'm worried about being laid off on my job. I have a physical ailment that's going on with my liver. I need to ask to deal with that specific. Be specific. Stop being general. Then the course says right here, it says generalize. It says the exercises will be practiced with great specificity. Try to say that 3 times in a row. Okay. It will be indicated what will happen. He says, well, this will help you to generalize the ideas involved to every situation in which you find yourself, and to everyone and everything in every situation in which you find yourself. Second, be sure that you what? Do not decide for yourself that there are some people, situations, or things to which these ideas are inapplicable. Stop deciding who you think this couldn't work on. Stop deciding who it is that you think what they're doing is not a call for love and can't be answered. The Course in Miracles is telling you got 2 rules. You got 2 rules, right? It says the only general rule is you want to apply this specifically in every situation that you're in, and stop thinking that there are some people that it doesn't apply to. It's interesting that people will have relationship issues and they'll feel like their partner cannot ever change in a way that would make the relationship work, and they are absolutely sure of it. What are they doing? They are deciding that there are some people that this doesn't apply to. And he's telling you, if you do that, you're not going to get the result. If you leave those people out that you have grievances toward, that's why nothing ever changes. You've left them out of the loop of truth. And I used to do that all the time and then wonder why. Like, you'll hear that most people will complain about what? Money. That's a big one for most people, right? For a lot of people. But then they think the laws of the universe and the laws of abundance don't work when it comes to that. And that's why they have to work so hard. I can't tell you how many musicians, because I used to be a musician, that used to be convinced that if you were a musician, you would have to be poor. That it's going to be hard for you to earn money if you're a musician. So what did they do? They excluded themselves from the truth. And it seems like, no, that's the practical idea. No, stop excluding yourself from the miracle and stop excluding other people from the miracle. He says right here, if you do that, this will interfere with transfer of training. What's transfer of training? You're going to be able to apply this to every situation in your life. Then he goes, the very nature of true perception is that true perception has no limits. So if I'm seeing you correctly, I don't see limitation. If you're seeing correctly, we don't see limitation. And the Course says that's the opposite of the way you see now. Yeah. You see limitation everywhere now. So what is the overall aim of the exercises? What are you doing this for? Well, he says the overall aim of the exercises is to increase your ability to extend the ideas. You will be practicing to include who? Everyone. Everything. And here's my favorite line after that one. This will require no effort on your part. Wow. What? Everything I just said that will require no effort on your part because the exercises themselves meet the conditions necessary for this kind of transfer. What does that mean? By the time I actually do the workbook lesson and I go, I'm giving everything I see in this room all the meaning it has for me. Of course it doesn't require any effort on my part because I've already done it when I do it. It's just by doing the lesson, just by actually practicing the lesson, then it actually has caught the exercise, like you said, the exercises itself meets the conditions necessary for the transfer. The mere fact that I'm doing it, saying, I give you all the meaning you have, and I give you all the meaning you have. Just by I'm doing the exercises, that's no effort. I'm just doing it. Because you don't, well, you get the good part in the last 2 paragraphs. It just, freaking hour up already. God, because I know for some people it's the longest hour on earth, and then for me it's 5 minutes. You know what I'm saying? I'd much rather be talking something that has validity and positivity, and is helping me, and is reminding me that I deserve to be loved and I'm not alone, than to spend all day long talking stuff. My R-rated class. You can't wait to hear that one. You get that.
Sign me up for the R-rated.
Well, that's the one that's the most fun.
Oh, yeah.
It's the one that's the most. When people can be people and act like people and talk like people and try to be little spiritual people with prunes stuck up their butt. Because some people think being spiritual means being quiet and talking softly. And you never show any emotion. For some people, that's beautiful. That's true. And that's the way they are. And that's the way it's true. Because I'm not like that. No. And I want to be around other people who don't think of spiritual things as always somewhere to be dead and quiet. You know, you'll have plenty of time for that after you go. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Oh, yeah. So I want the people in my, he keeps saying, ask for what you want. Ask for what you want. Ask for what you want. And that's all I'm doing. I'm not condemning anything. I'm totally grateful for everyone and everything in my experience. I'm multidimensional. You're multidimensional. There's a quiet side of me, and there's an introverted side, and there's an extroverted side. It's just that I notice when it comes to spiritual things, people tend to go for the introverted side of themselves more than anything else, especially if they hear the word church or spiritual. It's just funny, you know. But growing up in the Southern Baptist Church, the way I grew up, it was anything but quiet. you know, they was carrying them out. They had, in black church, when I was growing up, they had people called matrons. They had only one job in the church. Was that to help to carry out all the people who were screaming and shouting from the joy of God. I'm serious. That was their job, to take them out, because they were like losing it with their joy. So I had to get adjusted to being around people who, because they grew up in a quieter type of religious spirit, their ideas when you said church is to go, because that's what they grew up in. And I understand that. We're right back to meaning, right? The meaning it was given, right? So, and that's what he says right here. Some of the ideas the workbook of the Course in Miracles presents, you will find what? Hard to believe. Does that sound familiar? Okay. And others may seem to be quite startling. What's the next sentence? This does not matter. Like, what did Jesus of the Course say? Look, y'all, it doesn't really matter to me if you find what I'm saying from A Course in Miracles hard to believe. The Course is saying, it doesn't really matter that you find this quite startling. What are you asking me to do, Spirit? Well, I'm just merely asking you to apply the idea as you're directed to. Just, in other words, just do what I say. It doesn't matter to me whether you believe it or whether you like it or whether you agree with it. He says, just do what I say. Then he goes, the next sentence, like, what do you mean? Well, you're not asked to judge the ideas at all. I'm not asking you to judge whether it's valid or not valid, true or false. I'm not asking you to judge it. So we're not going to have a class where we sit around and everybody judge the ideas, right? He says, it doesn't matter. It tells you right here. What are you being asked to do? He says, well, the only thing that you're being asked to do is to what? Use the ideas. That's the part that's the most challenge for most people. How many times a day will you say, I'm giving this all the meaning that it has for me? You're getting ready to eat a dinner and you go, I'm giving this dinner all the meaning that it has for me. I'm giving the calories that I think that's too much in this food that I'm eating all the meaning that it has for me. I'm giving what's on TV telling me what's going on all the meaning. He said, I'm just asking you to say that. It doesn't matter if you believe it. It doesn't matter if it startles you. And then he says, I love it. Then he says, it's what? Their use that will give them the ideas meaning to you and will show you that they're true. So that's why you hear me harping so much on, let's come together and apply the ideas. Let's come together and apply the ideas. Let's come together and apply that. Because I want the results, y'all. And I want the results enough to do it, even if I don't believe it. See, what could be easier than that? You trying to tell me that my belief isn't necessary? No, I just want you to do what I'm telling you to do. Do what I'm telling you to do. Why does Spirit want us to do what it's telling us to do? because that's how you know you surrendered. When you surrender to something or someone, you do what they say. That's what surrender means. You give up. You go, you're in charge of this right now. So if I tell you to do something, you do it. That's symbolic of your willingness to let God, higher power, be in charge of you in your life. And then you start to see some of these miracles you're reading about in this book. Those of you who take the atheistic approach, this book will still benefit you, but not nearly as much as it would if you were to believe you weren't alone and you didn't create yourself. So there's another thing I'm asking for. I'm asking for people who want to have a spiritual teaching, who want a spiritual, metaphysical, higher consciousness teaching. I'm not here to teach you how to handle things better on your own, by yourself, without a higher power and without God. That is not Earl Purdy's purpose. Earl Purdy's purpose is to heal his relationship with his creator, his source, and God. And he wants to meet other people who also wants to learn how to let go of those blocks so that they don't feel like they have to do everything by themselves on their own. I'm asking for what I want. I'm asking for what I want, and I'm grateful for what I have. So what does he say? It's their use that will do what? Give the ideas meaning to you. So if you don't use it, will it ever have any meaning to you? No. If you never do the course, if you never apply it into the things it says, then it's not going to mean anything to you. But what will happen if you use the ideas? It says, well, the ideas are going to show you that the ideas are true. You wondering if this is true? Just try using it. Try going a week and saying everything is not love, it's a call for love. So all day long you're going, that's a call for love over there. He'll call for love. She'll call for love. My God, that's an international call for love right there. That's a call for love. He'll call for love. She'll call for love. You're going to find if you use those ideas are going to show you that they're true, because one day you're going to really get, it really is a call for love. That person really is in pain, and they really are calling for help. And then when you recognize it, then yours will be recognized that way. And when you're acting crazy and you're acting mean and you're not being as loving as you should be, then you will find yourself in a perception of reality where people reach out to you and help you because you have learned to see it that way. Okay, so what is it? So is it true that a person who won't do this doesn't want to get the joy and the love and the happiness? Yeah, because they've been taught that it's through punishment and pain that they grow. No pain, no gain is the stupidest thing you can tell yourself. If you tell yourself no pain is no gain, then you're asking for pain as a necessary step in your growth. You're asking for pain as a necessary step in your growth when you say no pain, no gain. Stop saying that. Or if you do insist on that, what are you complaining about if things are hard for you right now? If you do believe no pain, no gain, you should be going, oh my God, this week alone, that made enormous progress. Right? Right? Really, if you're ready to believe no pain, no gain, and you're going through hard times, your butt ought to be like, I'm thrilled because I'm gaining. Right? Right? So what are you complaining about? But if you're somebody that goes, I want to go beyond that idea of no pain, no gain, then this would be like good news that you could learn through joy. So what's the last part, the last paragraph? Here we go. And remember, why am I doing this? So you will have this class handy if you want to know what is the course trying to do and what is its instructions for studying, right? So what does it say? If y'all forget everything else I said, what does the next paragraph start with? Remember only this. What? Remember only this. Okay? What? You need not believe the ideas. Well, I'm a great student. You need not accept the ideas. Well, there's some areas of this. I'm a great student because I don't accept some of this. You need not even welcome these ideas. Some of these ideas from A Course in Miracles, some of the ideas from A Course in Miracles, didn't say you may resist. What did it say? You may actively resist. And I have, believe me, in teaching over the years, I have met active resistance. I've had people come into my class with a garbage bag one day. The young lady came with a garbage bag, and she opened the garbage bag up, and it had all the pages of the Course in Miracles torn out of the book in the garbage bag. One person, actually, Memphis was right next to the Mississippi River. There was one person I know threw their books off the bridge into the river. There was someone else that burned theirs, and they used it for fire. Right? So, do you think that qualifies as active resistance?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Have you had active resistance to some of these? Now, put it this way: have you had active resistance to some of the meanings you have given to what you've been reading in the course? Did y'all hear what I said? Your resistance isn't coming from the course. It's coming from your interpretation and the meaning that you gave to what it said. That's where your resistance. Like when somebody said, don't say the word God, you're saying you're reacting to the meaning that you're giving the word God. Or they go, well, don't use the masculine terminology, but that you're reacting to the meaning you've given to the masculine terminology. The Course in Miracles is in nowhere in there when it uses terms like brothers and his referring to a gender. And it lets you know it's teaching universal spiritual themes. So people go, well, why are you using those terms? Well, for some people, those terms are so rooted in their subconscious from what they learned as children that they need to have a new perception of those terms. And so what the Course does is it reinterprets what you've already learned to free you from it. So I'm going to give you a new perception of God. I'm going to give you a new, Course says, I'm going to give you a new perception of Jesus. I'm going to give you a new perception of what Christ means. And that's what I mean when I say I know the Course in Miracles is not for everyone. It's tailor-made, custom-made for certain people because of the background of what they've learned in the past. Does that make sense to everybody?
Oh, yeah.
You know, I had all those same resistances to the terminology at first, to God, to Christ, all of that because of my programming. And I had been into metaphysical truth for so long that was very gender neutral in every kind of way. So when I got to the Course, I went, whoa, wait a minute. Then I realized later, oh, you're reinterpreting what I learned. You're giving me, you're working on a much deeper level than what I realized. So rather than fighting those terms everywhere I see them and hear them, you're giving me a new perception of them so that when I see it on TV, hear it, or anyone else is speaking those terms, I can have an interpretation of those terms that free me. Because I can't be in the world and keep my head in the sand and pretend that I'm not going to hear Christian terminology in America. Especially those of us who grew up Catholic, Baptist. I'm a recovering Baptist. You know, so I realized it was made for me. To help me get past my resistance, but it's not going to be the way for everybody. Okay? You'll be much more successful if you get a niche that you're aiming at, if you're trying to be self-employed in some way, than it would be if you have the attitude you're trying to reach everybody. That is not the smart way to approach anything. You look for your niche, the people who would most be receptive to the way you do it. I ask for the people who are more receptive to the way that I do the Course. Fortunately, there are thousands of people every month that show me that they do. That's what's so interesting in having you beautiful people in front of me right now. And we have a small, intimate group. And then at the end of the month, they'll say 18,000 people saw your video.
Whoa.
You know what I'm saying? So it's really weird. And sometimes they be like, I can't wait to get to your class. They say, oh, you're going to be shocked. Because they be like expecting like there's people falling out of the door with so many people, you know. And so it's really funny. It's really funny because Spirit took it in a direction that I didn't expect it to go in with COVID. You know, you have to change, right? Yeah. So I had to give it a new meaning. And so this is what we want to hear. This is the last paragraph. This is what we want to hear. He says, some of the ideas you may actively resist. What's the next sentence? None of this will matter or decrease their efficacy. So what are you telling me? I'm telling you, class, that it doesn't matter if you resist it. It doesn't matter if you welcome these ideas. It doesn't matter if you don't accept these ideas. And it don't matter if you don't believe these ideas. They will still work. Now think about that belief for a minute. If your beliefs and your thoughts create your reality, that's what we believe, is that our thoughts create our experience, right? Okay, suppose you had the thought that none of your disbelief, none of your non-acceptance, none of your non-welcoming, none of that's going to decrease the effectiveness of what you're doing. That's a great belief. That's a great thought to have, that no matter how I feel about it, it's still going to work. Because some people think unless they have faith, that it's not going to work, right? And the Course is covering that. Yeah, the truth is, what if you gave yourself the belief that even if you didn't believe in welcome it, accept it, and have resistance, the idea would still be just as effective. That's a powerful idea. Then he goes, well, then what do? Well, the course says, do not allow yourself to make exceptions in applying the ideas the workbook contains. Do not allow yourself to make exceptions in applying the ideas. Stop leaving people and things out. Well, it works for everything but black folk. It works for everything but white folk. It works for everything but any other people of color. It works for anything but people who were born in the South Side. Then it works for the people who were born on the North Side. It works more for people in the United States, and it works for people in Libya. You know what I'm saying? We make all kinds of exceptions. And he's saying to us, don't make any exceptions in applying the ideas that the workbook, the Course in Miracles contains. And here's my favorite line out of all of these lines, which is, whatever your reactions to the ideas may be. Did it say, whatever your reaction? You mean if I react with anger? You mean if I react with disbelief? You mean if I react to the Course with joy? You mean if I react to the Course with enthusiasm? You mean if I react to the Course with total and complete faithlessness and anger? He says, whatever your reaction to the ideas may be, use them. Did you hear me? Yeah. It doesn't matter. He said, I'm going to tell you something. It doesn't matter how you all react to what I say. Use it. It doesn't matter if you like it, don't like it, get mad, don't get mad, understand or don't understand. He says, use it. No matter what your reaction. So if you take that attitude, the workbook becomes really easy. He's just taking away all your blocks from doing the workbook lessons. What could be easier? And I defy anybody to point out another spiritual path that's asking for them to do less than what you just heard. Please tell me so I can go do it. I don't know a spiritual path that tells me that I don't have to believe it, have to accept it, have to welcome it. It's okay if I resist it. It's not going to decrease its effectiveness. That the first few lessons are 2 minutes a day. And then it'll say if 2 minutes too much, do a minute. I mean, come on, y'all. I mean, like, how could you even claim you really want to do something that you want to do less than that? You don't really want to do, don't even want to really do something that if you want to do less than that, you're a person that don't want to do nothing. Yeah. And you want to get all the benefits. That's what you are. And you're innocent. And guess what? You're still going to be helped. You're still going to be loved. You're still going to be provided for, because real love loves you without you having to do anything to receive it. We're used to love that is so conditional that it's hard for us to believe that we could be exactly the way we are and receive love beyond our wildest imagination, just the way you are today. Wow. Somebody that loves you is not going to say, well, you changed and then I'm going to love you. They meet you and they love you right where you are, and you all raise up and you lift each other up together. That's what you do with real love. So this book has taught me how to tell when I'm giving and receiving real love and when I'm not. And then I realized 90% of the people around me didn't give real love, and I didn't either. I was giving specialness and they were giving specialness. And that's what we do. And so now I am trying to become a more loving being, let who I really am come out, so that I can perceive, draw, and therefore manifest more people in my life that feel the exact same way. Because I have to be what I want to have. He says you have to be what you want to have. But you don't want to be something you don't already think you are. Jesus also says that in the Course. The mere fact that you want to be more loving means you jokers already feel like you're more loving. You wouldn't be aspiring to it, to be a more loving, caring person, unless you already thought you were a loving, caring person. Or you wouldn't even be trying to come to a class like this. Now all you have to do is be it. Because the minute you become it, you have it. That's the key to everything. You be what you want to have. You want peace in your life, be a peaceful person. If you want kind people in your life, be kind. That basic stuff we heard since we were a kid. And that's what's happening in the world right now, is that everybody's calling for love and screaming at a level we've never heard before in human history. And so everybody's waiting for somebody else to do it. And the Course is saying, no, just change your mind, apply the truth to yourself, and apply it to everybody in your mind that you see, and then let the Holy Spirit do the rest. So the Holy Spirit will extend it. You just need to do your part by doing the simple things I'm telling you to do, so that you can allow yourself to be helped. That's what he says. I'm trying to teach you how to let yourself be helped. You all don't even know how to let yourselves be helped. So I want to help you, but I have to teach you how to let me help you. And that's what the course is doing.
Yeah.
So there.
Thank you.
So there. So there. So there. So there. So there. All right. So we're gonna do the love offering, the donation. I appreciate y'all. I'm gonna do one little quick 2-minute recap. And I went over 16 minutes. Oh my God. I went too far. It was so funny. I remember this cover after 9/11, after so many weeks, after 9/11, and we were kind of restricted in what we could do. I know people remember that for a while. And there was a big title on the Onion that says, Americans frustrated because they can't hardly wait to get back to meaningless BS again. You know what I'm saying? It's like we love, the Course in Miracles teaches that for things to be interesting in the world, to the ego mind, to the separated mind, it has to be meaningless. That it has to be something that has absolutely nothing to do with our welfare. And he said, anybody remember the pet rock?
Oh, yeah.
Right. Okay, what could be more meaningless, right? Major guy, multimillionaire. It's like the things that attract ego separate minds that think they're separate from God. It's got to always be something that's totally, utterly meaningless. And then something that's the more meaningful that changes your mind, that makes you love each other, makes you reach out. You love it, you get 20 people. When it's something that has to do with sincere change of mind and heart. But if it's something that doesn't have any meaning, then you'll get thousands of people that'll turn out to do it. But what's the healing in that? The healing is that just for a minute, for whatever reason, you got a bunch of people sharing the same purpose at the same time together. Yeah. So if it's a Broncos game, great. If that's everybody in the stadium all rooting together, seeing themselves as joined toward a common purpose, then that's a holy instant. Mm-hmm. That's a holy instant. So I'm not, again, even though the ego is going to think that I'm trying to put stuff down, I'm not. I'm just saying that if I'm going to use the Broncos correctly, then I would go, I'm giving the Broncos all the meaning that it has for me. Mm-hmm. I'm giving the new quarterback all the meaning that he has for me. I'm giving that person I met at the party last night who didn't call me back. Mm-hmm. I'm giving them all the meaning that it has for me. Instead of realizing that God is protecting me, that rejection is protection and redirection. That's what's happened. And so those of you who like to make a financial expression of appreciation and donation, you can go to earlpurdy.com, my website, and you can also use Venmo and Cash App and Zelle and PayPal. Nice. And I think I'm giving you as many ways as possible. Cash too. Yeah. The Course in Miracles says there's no way that you won't be given what you need to stay if you're fulfilling your function. Yeah. I'm telling you, I'll say that again. If you're fulfilling your function, you're going to be provided for. If you're fulfilling your function, you're going to be provided for. If you're keeping the agreement that you made before you entered in this life, it has a purpose. He says in the book, nothing about your salvation could have been planned without your consent. There's nothing about how your life is unfolding to wake you up that was not planned without your consent. Everything that's happening, that's something you agreed upon as part of your awakening process. And the only reason why you're suffering is you're still guiding yourself. Mm-hmm. And you're not following your instructions, which we just heard today. You just heard today what you need to do to have your miracle in your perception. So the issue is, and you're innocent if you don't, if you're going to take this as a motivation to recommit yourself to your workbook lesson. If you have already done 80 lessons, don't fall for the I'm going to start back over from the beginning trick. Start where you left off. Don't do more than one exercise a day. And even if you think you didn't do it that day, even if it's going to sound weird to say this to you after everything I've said, but go on to the next one. Because the first time you do, in my perception, the first time you do the workbook prepares you to do the workbook for the first time. the first time you read the text prepares you to read the text for the first time. Trust me on that. No such thing as you read it one time and you got it, unless you was Jesus himself. You know, because I've seen people say that to me, and 5 minutes later tell me what they're upset about, and you watch them get upset, and they just tell you, "I the Course in Miracles. I did that in 1990. I did it. Cool. You might have read it, but it's hard for me to believe a person could read that book all the way through and not be interested in it. You know what I'm saying? If you really see how it reads, it's like you're gonna go from 1 to 622 on this book, and it not have any kind of impact, but you've gone through that many pages, and you really realize what you were reading. So Thursdays at 7 p.m. Mountain Time on the Earl Purdy page on Facebook, Hardcore Course in Miracles. 1 p.m. Mountain Time on the Earl Purdy page on Facebook. And also you can come in person and join us live for the presentation at 1555 Race Street, 1555 Race Street, Denver, Colorado, 80206. I guess you should say 0, but I like O better. Okay? So, take a breath. Just for a minute, I want to bring us to a close. And also, please share my videos. And also, they're on Facebook, so you don't have to be on Facebook to watch my classes. I upload all of my videos onto YouTube, so you can also watch my videos on YouTube. Please share them. Take a breath, please. If you have problems with insomnia, please study the Course in Miracles. It will knock you out. I've seen people be so alive until my class starts, and then they go dead asleep. Because the Course says that that's going to be one of the reactions that we have to it, is that we'll go to sleep.
I need not believe the ideas. I need not believe the ideas. I need not believe the ideas. I need not accept the ideas. I need not accept the ideas. I need not accept the ideas. And none of this will matter. None of this will matter. None of this will matter, no, because the use will give them meaning and show me that the ideas are true. Are you ready? Remember, let's do it again. I need not welcome the ideas. I need not welcome the ideas. I need not welcome the ideas. And some of these ideas I'm going to actively resist. Some of these ideas I'm going to actively resist. Some of these ideas I'm going to actively resist. None of this will matter. None of this will matter. None of this will matter, no, because the use will give them meaning. I say the use will give them meaning and show me that the ideas are true. Show me that the ideas are true. Show me that the ideas are true. Come on and show me that the ideas are true. Come on and show me that the ideas. So what do we say? Show me that the ideas are true. Holy Spirit, show me that the ideas are true. Holy Spirit, show me that the ideas are true. Holy Spirit, show me that the ideas are true. Holy Spirit. Now we got the way to do this now. We
We know the purpose. We know the purpose. We know the purpose. Guess what?
Now some of these ideas I'm gonna find hard to believe. Some of these ideas I'm gonna find hard to believe. Some of these ideas I'm gonna find hard to believe. Some of these ideas are gonna seem quite startling. Some of these ideas are gonna seem quite startling. I am not asked to judge the ideas at all. I am not asked to judge the ideas at all. I am not asked to judge the ideas at all. Oh, none of this will matter.
I know y'all got some funk in you somewhere.
None of this will matter.
Yeah, I'm telling you now.
None of this will matter, Lord, because the use will give it meaning. I say the use will give it meaning. Guess what? And show me that the ideas are true. Show me that the ideas are true. Come on and show me. Show me what? That the ideas are true. Come on and show me. That the ideas are true. Come on and show me. That the ideas are true. Come on, show me that the ideas are true. Holy Spirit, show me that the ideas are true. Holy Spirit, show me that the ideas are true. Holy Spirit, show me that the ideas are true. Holy Spirit, show me that the ideas are true. Holy Spirit, show me that the ideas are true. Holy Spirit, show me that the ideas are true. Holy Spirit, show me that the ideas are true. Tell Spirit, show me that the ideas are true. Tell Spirit, show me that the ideas are true. Show me that the ideas are true.
Show me that the ideas are true. So if you want a one-on-one session with me, call the Clarity Session. Then go to my website. It'll give you all the details, and you can self-book a session with me right online. I'm here only to be truly helpful. I appreciate you all so much that you want to hear another way of looking at things, that you all want to join for the purpose of having miracles and love in our life. You're priceless, like the quote says. You're priceless treasures instead of a busted dish. You're priceless treasures. That's how I see you. That's how I feel about you.
Thank you.
That's how I see you. That's
Thank
how I
you.
feel about you. Might be because I don't know you that well. But I believe otherwise. I believe you're loved. That's what I believe.
That's right.
That's what I see.
So then when you know us, we become jerks.
That's right. That's right. That's right. So hugs are available, and again, I'm available for 10 minutes after class to talk and to discuss, and because this is the most important part of the week to me. It gets the whole week started out. Hey, appreciate y'all so much. I told you. Put your clothes on. I told you that every week.